Tim Sharif, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having
Tim,
me.
tell me, how did you end up starting 310 Nutrition? Was there a specific moment that sparked the idea?
Yeah, I was an affiliate. From 2003, I met somebody in Thailand that told me about this thing called Google advertising. And so I was an affiliate selling other people's products, obviously, like affiliates do, on Google early on when it was really easy. And the company that I was making most of my revenue with in 2009 went out of business. And at the time, I was living here in Vegas. For the same reasons as I'm here now, is it was a very tax-friendly place, and it was very easy to scale up advertising at that time. And then I always wanted to live in LA, so I had a boat in San Diego, and I would stay on the boat. And when I lost my income in 2009, I was like, "Oh, well, I don't pay taxes anymore. I guess I can move to California." So I studied every city from Malibu to San Diego, and I picked Manhattan Beach, and that's the area code of 310. And then it was funny. I saw a post on Facebook that I made that said, "I'm moving to LA and making it mine." And I had no idea what I was going to do there. And then about 2 years after that, I became an affiliate for another company that was selling shakes. And I learned that there was a real gap for clean shake products at that time. The shake that I was selling had soy and sucralose. And then there was another brand, Shakeology, that was clean, and it was $100 a bag, where ours was like 60 a bag, and we were getting crushed because of the ingredients. And that's where I learned about clean products. And then instead of going an affiliate, I started 310 with one bag of vanilla shake. 310 is our area code in LA, so I started with the LA, Hollywood shake, right? West LA. So that's kind of how I started 310. And then the journey 12 years later to where I'm at now.
When it's interesting, I didn't know 310 was the area code. Now it clicked.
Yeah.
So, what were your first? You said the vanilla was the first one. What were your
One,
first five SKUs?
one bag of vanilla shake, and then we made other flavors. Lots of funny stories in developing products and learning that. But then after that, we made a clean lemonade product that was, no. All our products have always been no sucralose, no fructose, no sugar. Clean before it was cool. Back then, especially, it was hard to make clean products taste good. Even to this day, a lot of people, there's sugar, right? Fructose, there's sucralose, there's stevia monk fruit, right? So we developed products after that. It was a clean lemonade product that the best tasting 5 calories you could ever taste, right? And it was like a water enhancement. A lot of people want to drink a lot of water, but they don't like water, and it was a product to fill that solution. And then after that, we had a tea product, which we still have, and I can't remember now. We have a lot of SKUs. I don't remember what order they came in, but shake was always our biggest product, and we continue to launch flavors of shakes and then products that map to that customer, which is people who are looking to live a healthier lifestyle with clean products, and usually that leads with weight loss, right? So yeah, started with the shakes and lots of flavors of shakes.
Tim, give us the new brand launch playbook. Let's say I'm a person who wants to start a new DTC brand. I'm in my kitchen. I'm not quite sure what I want to make. I want to experiment with some stuff. I want to do some research. I want to pick some ingredients. I want to do some healthy stuff, organic and sustainable stuff, but I'm just not quite sure. What do I do? Where do I begin? What are the first things that I got to do in the first
Well,
3 months, first 6 months, first year?
Well, it's not what it was when I started. And when I started 310, it's completely different now. And as you know, I would use AI. I would learn it really well. I would use ChatGPT. I would talk about the market. I would ask AI to build you a plan to meet your goal. And if your goal is to make money, tell it. Be very learn about how to use ChatGPT and AI, and learn about the feedback loop and the context, and build yourself a business plan with ChatGPT. And then after you do that, you're going to ask ChatGPT to build you SOPs. You're going to build standard operating procedures. They're going to give you clear step-by-step instructions on how to go. You can go the old school way, but you'll be bypassed by the people doing it the new school way. And I would say starting there, and then you're going to ask ChatGPT that. Say you want to start a whatever product that you see that's out there. You're going to ask you're going to want to figure out something that has a great TAM, right? So that has a good size. Your total market accessibility, right? How big is it? You're going to ask ChatGPT about how competitive it is. You want to find something that is in there. If your goal is you're passionate about, like my son is about, and he just got his LLC a couple days ago, and he's quickly becoming a fishing influencer, and his goal is to do what he loves. He's going to be held by the TAM that allows for. And fortunately for him, fishing has a big TAM, bigger than golfing, right? A total market accessibility that's out there. And a lot of fishermen aren't really as savvy as like a skincare marketer or a supplement marketer, which is one of the most like competitive direct to consumer CPG brands, consumer packaged goods. So I know that world, but I would say today it would definitely be using AI to the best of its ability. A lot of people like to say that ChatGPT isn't, they use it for writing emails or writing stuff, and they like to say, oh, it's not there. And I say to them, you know what? It's nowhere where it's going to be in 6 months from now. It's a lot further than it was 6 months ago, and it's a lot further than people think that it is. So, yeah, I would really get that business plan and build standard operating procedures. Give you clear instructions on what you want to do, and it will tell you what manufacturers. It'll write the email for you to email those manufacturers, and do it scrappy, do it yourself at first, and that's how I would say to do it.
Tim, going back to the early days again, do you remember the biggest challenges you faced as a new founder, and what were some of the ones that were giving you headaches at the time?
I was always fortunate that I was early on Google, and you didn't have to be so good at Google when you're early. So I had an early adopter advantage, and revenue cures all problems. And fortunately, I was able to grow revenue like crazy. So all the challenges I had were really easily overcome with revenue. But challenges were like the first person I made my product with, all the product was fake, right? I had no idea. And I found that out when I went to go get my pricing down. And they said, hey, this is a fake product, right? So I had to deal with, getting my samples, putting in all this work, then going to other manufacturers and finding out that 6 months worth of work and all this stuff put in was a product was from a company that you didn't have ChatGPT. So that was a challenge. And then I remember the first year I made $800,000 profit. I go to my CPA, and I wasn't used to warehousing product. I was used to spending money and getting paid a commission as a 1099. And I walk into the CPA's office, and the CPA says, you made $800,000. I said, how did I make $800,000? I didn't take a penny out. He said, well, you have all this inventory, don't you? I'm like, yeah, but I haven't sold it yet. He said, well, that's equity. Now you owe $350,000. So I don't have $350,000. Well, I just didn't pay my taxes that year. So, I paid my little fines to the IRS. I filed. You don't get in trouble for being late on your taxes. You get in trouble for lying and not filing. That was a challenge, really understanding the taxes and paying the taxes, and then employees and all of the challenges you go with, and then you start eating challenges for breakfast after that, right? So you just go day by day and you learn. Take it off in bite-sized pieces.
Hmm. And in the early days, were you mostly online DTC, or were you looking to do retail?
Never did retail. I was always online DTC. My early adopter advantage was I was on Google since 2003, so I really understood Google advertising. And then I was doing Facebook advertising before they even allowed you to really. They didn't even want you to send people to the website. They had you clicking likes. They had you filling up like pages when you had 100% reach, and then you would fill up your Facebook page and you offer your product, and you would just get all kinds of sales. And that was before Facebook is what it was. So yeah, it was really having that early adopters advantage, which there is that happening right now. People just don't really realize it. Nobody really realized what Google was. They even wondered, they were still doing TV advertising. Really, even before Google, if you look back to like 1995, people were even saying, is internet really a thing, right? That's how early it was. And then you go from there to Facebook advertising when the CPMs, the cost per mil, that's Latin for cost per thousand impressions, were $2, right? And now they're like $50. So you have that advantage. And we had sold $13 million before I ever sent out an email, because that wasn't what I did. I was that customer acquisition guy for other brands, for other companies that sent out emails. And I would be paid I'd be paid a commission. So now, and then I was doing influencer marketing in 2012. Well, there was no word called influencer marketing. I found out because I was in LA and I wanted celebrity endorsements, right? And then I learned about influencer marketing, and that was a whole thing. And I have some interesting things to think about. I just asked AI recently about my early adopter advantage. of Google and Facebook and influencers. And it was about a good 10 years with Google where I was ahead of everybody. It was about a good 8 years with Facebook and Meta that I was ahead of everyone. It was a good 6 years before people figured out influencers. So I asked this to ChatGPT. I said, how long is my early adopter advantage with AI? It says 2 to 3 years. And you look at it, why? The mass transfer of information. People learn quickly. There's a lot more me's in the world figuring this thing out now. So being early on things, and I and there's people when we have done with 300 million in revenue in the last years. There's other brands that started that were smaller than us that have done 2 billion in revenue, that have taken advantage of those early adopter advantages more than we have, bigger chances and done more. So there's always a way to do more. But yeah, I would say getting while they're getting good is very important, because getting won't always be good for that same thing. You got to be able to shift and move.
You're so right about that. It hits a plateau after a while, and you have to find new methods because the old stuff doesn't work anymore. Tim, I'm curious about your product development process. How do you decide which new products or flavors to launch?
You listen to your community. There's now with AI, you can do it better than ever, because you can ask AI how to do it. It can actually help you develop the products even better. It knows more. Really, you can use data more now than we used to. We can't crunch data as much as AI can and data analysts can, and you're not going to afford a data analyst earlier. But we had built a community on Facebook. We were very engaged with our customers. So we would hear from them what they were looking for. We watched the market. We had launched with our customers. If people liked it, we would keep it. And product development, work with different formulators, different manufacturers, and now it's so easy. You can build SOPs around it, right? So really, and now it's funny. I just built a review
Can you
SOP.
explain SOP for our listeners who don't know what it is?
Yeah, it's a standard operating
Oh,
procedure,
yeah.
which used to be very complicated for people to do. And you try to, and what would happen is we would build SOPs, but we put them in Google Docs, and no one would ever use them again, right? So it's kind of a waste of time. But to be a large company, over 10 years and 15 years, large companies have to have SOPs to scale, standard operating procedures. And you don't really have them too early. You're hiring people for their skill set, and they're kind of doing it because they know more than you do. But eventually you do need very clear SOPs. And you would write them, but no one would use them. Well, now you can write them better than ever with AI. And you asked about product development. It's funny, we are moving now we pipe everything into a data warehouse now, all of our data, right? So we are now, you think about surveying customers and those customers telling you what they like and don't like about your product. If this was me 10 years ago, I'd be reading through them, only getting so much data. Well, now you can pipe that into a data warehouse, or you can pipe that into your AI. You're not going to want to use AI for that being a startup. It's going to start getting confusing. You're going to need an analyst. You're going to need a data warehouse. You don't need any of that to really get going. But you can really leverage hearing about what your customers like more about your products and what they want more. And the best place to learn about what to make is from your customers. Because here's the one thing is, a lot of people are romantic with their own ideas. And the truth is, nobody cares what Tim thinks. So you really have to be focused on the customer. We always hear about the customer first, serve the customer, Bezos serves the customer. But really figuring out what your customer wants and leaning in on that is how you should figure out how to develop your next products. And then in the beginning on your first product, you're going to be using your friends, you're going to be using your family. Eventually, we had an app where we're taste testing amongst 10 or 15 people. and we tested against competitors and other people. And when you're modeling after other companies, it's easier to make a better tasting product because you have them as the control. And then eventually you have your own products as the control, and you'll start to upgrade products. And always continuing to improve your products is really important.
Yeah, you said that in the early days you were looking through the feedback yourself, but after a while it's not scalable. So, free idea for our listeners here. I went through the same issue. I was kind of spot checking what people are saying in the emails, what they're responding, what kind of stuff are they confused with. So, free idea: go to Zapier, create a new Zap, connect the Gmail inbox to Google Sheets. So every new email should be saved in the Google Sheets. And once a week, export the CSV from that Google Sheets, import it back into ChatGPT and ask it. Past 7 days of emails, what kind of stuff are people asking? What kind of feedback are they giving? What are they confused with? What are some opportunities in there that we may not be acting on? And then look at the results. Do it once a week. Super easy.
That's a lot more simple than what I'm doing. I will do that one right away. That's a lot more simple than setting up a data warehouse, piping it in the data warehouse, and then pulling. And then yeah, absolutely, that's a great way to do it. So similar to what we're doing now, but more. That's the way I would do it too. Great feedback. Thank you for that.
Hopefully, it'll be helpful to people. Tim, I wanted to ask you. I've tried obviously 310 shakes, and my first impression was that why is this stuff tastier than some of the other stuff? Like, I personally like the caramel flavor, and I was wondering, like the science behind your products and the balance between making them appealing to consumers taste wise and just making sure the ingredients are also kind of healthy and clean. I imagine that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, when you're not using sucralose, which is Splenda, you can make a turd taste good with sucralose, right? Or fructose and sugar, right? So yeah, when you're using natural sweeteners like stevia, monk fruit, you have to overcome that. And when you're using ingredients that are greens or protein, where people feel like it's chalky, right? And there is definitely to come over that. When you're using natural flavors, and the key to that is to have good formulators, work with good flavorologists, right? I work a lot with my flavor guy Jeff Reynolds for a long time. There's a lot of flavor houses out there, but it really just comes down to the formulation and testing. And the one thing is, when you have a clean product with a lot of ingredients in it, now clean is cool. When I first started, it wasn't. People were, a lot more sugar, a lot more sucralose, but they have the same things to overcome as you do. And kind of like Coke and Diet Coke, you're never going to have Diet Coke that tastes like a Coke, and people who drink Coke all the time are not going to like Diet Coke. But when you're serving a certain market, right, and you make them taste better, it's just going to be putting the work and the effort into it. And how do you put the work and the effort into it? You're going to talk to more manufacturers, more flavor people, more time into it, better processes, better SOP, standard operating procedures in doing this. And yeah, and do it by bite-sized pieces. Not so complicated. It's just work, right? But that's what a lot of people are missing, is the work, right? So the ones that work the hardest make the best tasting products.
Yeah. So you have a pretty diverse product line. Shakes, you have the shakes, obviously, but you also have the hydration packets, and you have some teas. How do you decide to expand into a new category versus focusing on some of the core offerings?
Well, because the market kind of dictates that, right? It's very hard to bring a brand new product that no one's ever had to market. Hydration, a lot of these products were created by other people that spent a lot of money to create these categories. Hydration, there was Pedialyte before there was Liquid IV. Liquid IV started 6 doors down from us on Nevada Street in El Segundo. And as we became a company doing what we've done, they've become $1 billion brand, right? And something like 310 Hydrate, which we now have in Sprouts, and we have gone retail and international since then. You do hit a plateau, what you were saying, what got you to where you are today doesn't always get you to where you go tomorrow. You have to move and be agile. But, there's these companies out there, and a lot of times that are spending a lot of money creating a category. And a lot of times you can ride that wave or you don't want to be, a lot of people are like, well, I can't launch that because someone already did it. Well, someone already did it's good, because the rising tide rises all ships. They're creating the education, they're creating the category. And Pedialyte was around long before Liquid IV, and Liquid IV comes out with a product that has 11 grams of sugar. And here's a product that tastes great without the sugar, and doesn't taste like salt water like some of the other ones do. And you find a fit in there. And we are now the fastest growing hydration product in Sprouts in 400 locations, which is our foray into retail. And you find something, and we couldn't put our shakes on the shelf because our shakes are competing against. We could, but we knew that wasn't the safest bet, because it's very expensive to go into the stores. You have to give them what they call free fills, right? And Sprouts is a good one for us. It's not like Whole Foods where I have to give them $1 million in free fills. You give Sprouts up $200,000 in free fills, and they test to make sure people like it before they really carry your product, or before you make it on the shelf. But yeah, really, you need to look at the market and see what people want, and then you need to find out how you can improve on the product, which is kind of it's an advantage, because you get to taste next to theirs, you get to see the feedback, you can go read their Amazon reviews, what people like and don't like. And for us, an easy one was taking the sugar out of Liquid IV. And here's the thing about hydration. It's one product, you really feel it. Like when you drink 310 hydrate or liquid IV with the sugar or not, right? If you don't care about sugar, that's fine. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel more hydrated, and the market will dictate whether they like it or not. So you really just pay attention to what's going on in the market, and then you'll know what to bring out, and you know your own consumer, and you deliver them their product.
What is up with this $1 million in free fills? I didn't know about that. So if you wanted to go into Whole Foods, you need to give them a $1 million worth of free product, and they could come back and say, we actually decided not to carry you, so then you lose the 1 million.
Exactly. So it's one thing that, and so
Seriously?
we said no to Sprouts after we learned about this because this was new to me too, right? And we've done 300 million in revenue from our website, right, and direct to consumer, and the margins are also not the same in the store. The margins are very low. You have to go through a distributor like KeHE, or that's the one that we use, or Unify, and so now you have your cost of goods. They want it for double, then they sell it to Sprouts, and then in Sprouts or whatever those stores are, you're going to pay for promotions. You're going to pay. So there's really not all the stuff you see in the store. You have to do massive volume to make money. So it's really get your brand out there, play. And then when you do go to them, they're like, okay, we're going to take you. We want you to give us 3 boxes per store. Well, there's 400 stores, right? So you'll see you have to give them those for them to test the market. And then if you want to put a new product in there, which they accepted our greens, right? And then you go in there and you're looking at what the greens are, you're doing your economics, you're like, how risky is this? So we wanted to learn that market first. So we didn't even want to go into another store until we saw it worked in Sprouts. Because let's just say we went into Sprouts and it didn't work. We're the ones that are going to lose the money. Why even go somewhere else? Luckily for us, it was taking off in Sprouts. And then you'll see, you want to pick a store like Sprouts that reports to the SPINS data. There's a company out there called SPINS that takes the scans at the register, and that allows you to show other stores, hey, we're growing here. Hey, we're taking market share here. Then the other stores are more likely to get in. So it cost me about $200,000 paying to like a outsourced VP of sales, a broker to get us. And then what happened was Sprout says, hey, we can't pay you until you're in a distributor like KeHE and Unify. And KeHE and Unify is like, hey, we're not going to take you until you're in a store. So you kind of got to balance that. So it took us a couple of years and a couple $100,000. When I say a couple $100,000, it's because you have people working on it. You have your time. You're paying the guy, $5,000 a month to get you in the shelf. Then you have to do the free fill. So it's very risky in the stores. So in the end, it's all hard. Ecom was easier before, and now I think we were talking. Now there's this thing is the new early adopter, and it's TikTok shops, right? So get on this right before it's wore out, and it'll get wore out faster. You're not going to have the same time frames that we had on all of those times, right? The windows will be shorter, and probably the opportunities will be more and more as they come along. But yeah, it's expensive in retail, and it doesn't make a lot of money. And in e-com, even though you're a direct to consumer, you spend a lot on advertising. So in the end, scale and scaling the operational efficiencies once you get there are really important.
In the supplements, people seem so skeptical about everything. How do you build trust in the supplement business?
Yeah. Well, you build trust by building a good product. One thing I know from me early on, before I got too busy, and I always want to get back to it and I never do, is it does give you an advantage to be a founder that is speaking to your customers. We have probably the largest Facebook group you've ever seen of any brand. We have 400,000, mostly women. And I was in that group doing videos when it used to get a lot of reach. And they would know that if they called customer service, that they always had me to go to, right? So that built trust, right? You were happy no matter what, and in the community, they knew you were part of it there. And now that ability's on TikTok where you have reach, moving to where you can communicate with your customers. But I think a big thing is the owner communicating with them, letting them know that you will be taken care of no matter what, goes a long way. And then building trust too, in the end, having a label that people want, product people want, an offer that people want. You got to imagine the first time a customer buys from you and they don't know you, you need to give them a real compelling reason to buy. And then after that, taking good care of the customer. And me saying this is so cliche because this is like the given. Like, of course you do these things, right? So I think as long as you meet the good, real standard principle of being a good company and a good person and good to your customers, you gain that trust through that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about competition for a second. Tim, do you keep an eye on what other brands are doing without getting too caught up in it?
Yeah, you really need to because you learn from other brands. I read a book a long time ago called Finding the Next Steve Jobs. It was from a guy who started Atari and they started, Atari for those of you that are younger, right? It was like Sega and Nintendo, and then he started Showbiz Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese, one of those two, and he hired Steve Jobs early on. But in that book, I remember him saying, I read the book when I was first starting my company, and in that book, it says when you first start your company, you need to be studying your competition. You need to be really seeing what's working, and you have to follow proven tactics. You don't want to get too innovative. You don't want to be the first. 90% of your budget needs to be modeling from what other successful people are doing until you become the leader, and then you can start to spend more money on innovation and testing new ideas from your own learnings. But you always want the majority of your money from seeing what your competitors are doing. And I know for sure that's not sexy and people don't like it. And, we use words like modeling from other people. But in the end, we're all learning from each other. So even if someone's smaller than you can learn from them, but you're better odds to learn from someone is someone that's bigger than you or growing, and maybe not so big that it's like Nestle's or, billion-dollar company, but somebody in your space is growing. Well, what are they doing? And there's a lot of tools that you can use to do that. I remember when I started, there was spy foo. It's spy foo. You're spying on your competition. What are their keywords? What ads did they run? How long did they run those ads? What did the ad say? What did the landing page say? And if they spent a lot of money on that word for a long time, it was likely good because they go bankrupt, and you can learn from that. So, you really should learn from your competition, and it doesn't devalue your intellect. It actually, I would say, improves and makes you smarter that you can learn from other people. But yeah, you should absolutely know what's going on in your industry. You can learn from those people, and yeah, and you want to be in an industry that has a big total market accessibility, a big TAM, lots of competition, because you can just take a piece of the market share. Um, and yeah, definitely want to keep in tune with what the competition is doing.
Can you share a time when you had to like pivot or change direction with the business?
Yeah, always did. It was funny. Every single year, when I moved on to Meta, 310 became what they call a Facebook disruptor, right? There was 90 of us. And this is brands that Facebook studied. And I remember, and these companies like Peloton, Smile Direct Club, we were like the only supplement company that were part of this group. And every year things were changing, and it was the only flat year we ever had. But Facebook used to be interest-based advertising. You used to like pick a celebrity or pick an interest, and you'd create an ad, and you as the human, the person, would pick that interest, and you'd speak to that customer that had that interest. Facebook had the data on what that interest was. And then this was probably like 7 years ago, Facebook went to where it's at now, which is machine learning. And it was our only flat year we ever had in 10 years. We grew every single year, and we had a hard time getting over. We always use influencers. So many of them, we had people from every reality show there was. And to get away from interest-based advertising to machine learning was a big pivot, because you weren't able to pick anymore. You had to use the platform, and the campaign, like what they say now, is a campaign simplification. So that was a big one. And then Meta, and then what I would always hear from everybody always is, hey, it costs more than it did last year. Everything costs more than it did last year. It's like I've always heard this. And it does get to be a point where it weeds people out. Like on TV, back in the day when I started, it was all run by Beachbody, Proactive, and a few companies. They bought all the TV. No one else could do it anymore. TV early on, people could. Or like Human, the Beats company, Super Beats, right? Like these guys knew that. And eventually Meta gets like that too. It was called Facebook at the time. But yeah, you always are going to have to pivot. I had to pivot to machine learning, and then I remember going. We had to give you how much it changes. The first influencer I ever hired was Gretchen Rossi from Housewives of Orange County, and it was $6,000 for 3 posts. Well, the first post on Instagram sold $30,000. The first picture on Instagram sold $30,000, and then she posted the second one, and she calls me and she says, "Hey, did you ever pay this guy the money?" And I was like, "I have a contract with him. I own the other half." She's like, "Well, he didn't pay me for the last 3 deals." So I drove there and I paid her. And from there, she introduced me to JWoww and Kim Zolciak, who eventually launched a brand on her TV show. Well, JWoww, she introduced me to, I paid $27,000 for 3 posts on Instagram. Well, the first picture sold $100,000. So then another pivot you talk about, it got to the point at the end about 6 years ago, I go to a convention in Vegas, The whole convention is about influencer marketing. They're teaching everybody how to get influencers and how to get them to post. And at this time, I'm realizing if I spend 10,000 for a picture on Instagram, or like I pay 50,000 to say Kris Jenner, I'm lucky to get $50,000 back. If I spend 10,000 with JWoww, I'm not getting 10,000 back. So you're seeing the beginning it was 27,000 for 3 posts. You're selling 100 grand. Well, then you have 10,000 to sell 10,000, right? Which is very similar to what you get now. And then you learn, hey, the pivot to that is okay. Now we have to use those ads for meta advertising. Now we have to do long-term deals. So you're always going to have to be weaving your way through. You always want to keep your feet on the ground. And the truth of it, one thing I learned is, as much money as you make in the end, you always want to hire your way through it. You always want people to think and bring you the ideas. It's never worked for me. I've tried hiring that, $500,000 a year president, multiple 6-figure people, and in the end, no one will do it like the owner. You have to be the one learning all of the tactics. You have to do it all. And if you get too content, it's hard to be hungry when you're full. So you need to really stay hungry. Don't let yourself go up into the skybox. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep in tune with what's going on. I've been punished about the skybox. I've tried to hire my way through it and buy my time back. And if you do buy your time back from one thing, you need to be using it on something else. And my friends at one point were telling me I was fake retired because I'm in YPO, and Young Presidents Organization. A lot of CEOs, they sell their company. And I wasn't working a lot, and I was hiring people, and they're like, man, it's like you're fake retired. I'm like, yeah, I got punished from that. So now I learned my lesson. I will never take my foot off the pedal until I actually truly do exit my companies, or if I do, and until then, I will keep my feet on the ground, and I will be the one coming up with all the ideas and all the direction.
Tim, what you just talked about is, I don't know if you saw the article, Founder Mode. Airbnb founder CEO, Brian Chesky talked about this, saying that even at that stage of the company, he's getting really involved just to make sure things get done right. And then Paul Graham from Y Combinator wrote an article about founder mode, how founders need to kind of get involved in the nitty gritty. And then it became really controversial. People are saying, oh, you don't trust the people you hire, you're micromanaging, But founder mode. So if you haven't seen that, go take a look. I'll send you the link
too. But
you just described it basically by being grounded.
Whole other podcast. You're hitting a very big point with me about trust and about micromanaging, and I could tell a lot of stories about that. And trust is earned or it's cheap, but you need processes. And you learn from trust over time, but you have to have processes. You can't hire the cook and let him cook. You need to really get in, like you said, get in the weeds, and no one's going to do it like the owner. No one's going to do it like the person that has the most to lose.
Mm-hmm. So, if you wanted to start a new brand now, clean slate, knowing what you know, it doesn't even have to be supplements. What would you do?
You know what the funny thing is? Coincidentally, I just asked ChatGPT that exact thing. And it gave me a couple things, and I asked it, if I was going to do something different than what I did, what would it be? And I was just curious. But I would do that. I would ask ChatGPT, and it was funny. It said gardening, and it said pet products, but I'm sure pet products I know are competitive. But outside of what I do, Warren Buffett said something a long time ago, and I forgot. I think he said, if you've been doing it for 18 years, don't change, right? So I would continue doing e-com and continue consumer packaged goods and finding my way forever. If I'm somebody that wants to get into CPG right now that doesn't have experience doing it, what would I do? I would pick something that other people have been successful with recently and learn from them, and then reverse engineer that. And don't get too much caught up into your own ideas and what you want. And if your goal is to make money, focus on it being money. If your goal is to make your hobby a business, know that you're going to come with the results that gives for it. So I would find something that reaches whatever my goal might be.
Yeah. Before I ask my final question, because you mentioned pet products, let me just tell you a quick story. My previous startup, we had a little bit of a big office in Williamsburg and Brooklyn, and upstairs we had space to kind of sublet. Two guys came with their dog, looking to kind of brand new startup, didn't have seed funding yet. Farmer's dog. And now I see their TV ads, got pretty huge. So final question, Tim, 2 parts. two problems giving you a headache right now and two priorities for the year.
Problems giving me a headache. Well, my priorities for the year. Two problems. Well, we got a lot of problems giving us headaches right now. Mine, a big is restructuring. Really hiring. I'm hiring a lot offshore now. They have this thing after COVID where they say, "Wow, now I can hire anyone in the country." Well, that's not actually true when you're a brand like us, because different states you'll cross the nexus and you will end up paying more taxes in those states. So we can't hire people anywhere. And then I really came to the conclusion that if you can hire people anywhere, why even do the United States? And looking a lot at Eastern Europe and Poland. So my headache right now is finding people who can recruit the right talent. So I'm working with recruiters. I would say getting the right. It's easier to hire the lower level people always anywhere, but to get the smart ones that right now and overseas and restructuring to build a company with operational efficiencies, because now with AI and us having this bionic brain, we all can know everything so quickly and learn so fast. It's all about operational efficiencies. So I would say focusing on that change is a big learning curve, and I think that a lot of companies aren't going to do it because they're romantic with their own processes and what they knew, what they've always done, and moving fast comes with pain and change, and people don't like change. They'll take a little optimization. So that's one of them. And what was the other question? That was my big problem. Were they both problems, or what was the next one?
Priorities for the year.
That is a priority, and operational efficiencies for the year. I would say it's that. Growing in retail, now that we're crushing it in Sprouts, we're taking market share. I know that we're doing good there. Expanding in retails, I would say another big one.
Tim Sharif, thank you for sharing your journey with me and dropping so many gems.
Well, thanks for having me. For you, anytime. Appreciate you.
Thank you.